Everyone, and welcome to Grandstand Sports Data. In today's video, we will be completing our 13 chapter series on the art of sports betting. We have helped educate you on what we call the 13 pillars for turning you from a square to a sharp, with similar principles to the book The Art of War. So here it is. This is the final chapter, and we're going to get right into the video. So, chapter 13 is going to be on education, and only those who study both the battlefield and themselves win the war that never ends. Now, that's not just a quote from Sun Tzu, it's going to be the truth, especially in sports betting. I want you to welcome you guys to the final chapter, which is educating yourself, where we turn sharp ideas into sharp action. What do we mean by that? We're talking about some educational books, maybe even some models. They won't guarantee wins, but they will make sure that you're never outmatched, right? And then also, you need to know that education is your weapon. The more you know, the more angles you understand, the more traps that you can avoid, the better your bets are going to become. And let's get one thing straight, you're not beating the sports book with gut instinct. So you beat them with education, discipline, and even the strategy that we've been talking about every single time. So this chapter isn't about adding more picks, it's going to be about upgrading the person making them, which is you. So let's get smarter together and let's finish this series strong. Now, we've kind of beat you over the head throughout this whole series about these three pillars in sports. We're going to talk about the core areas that you should always continuously be learning in and kind of understand why education matters. What I need you to do is that these three pillars are what? They're the same as all the three pillars that we've been running through, which is technical, fundamental, and market analysis. You want to master these. This is basically what these mean. The first one, which is sports knowledge, obviously, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, is your fundamental analysis. You need to know your sport. Talking about the rules, the structure, the rotations, coaching style, maybe even player roles, even injury reports. You need to know almost everything. Whether it's the NFL clock, MLB bullpens, maybe it's NBA lineups. These little details, they all matter, especially in the sports betting world. It's these minuscule edges that you can find that you play every single time and you can capitalize in the long run. Now, you also need to understand travel, fatigue, momentum, motivation, those fundamental factors that we always talk about. Those sports books often can't fully price those. So you want to be looking at those as well. Now, here's the kicker. Even when you make a perfect bet, randomness still exists, and you need to remember that. Luck is real. The goal is to lose. Well, over time, you want to win, but you're going to lose as a sports bettor. And if you're not okay with that, you're going to have a hard time. Now, let's move on to the second pillar, which is market dynamics. This is your what? Market analysis. You need to understand how the betting market works, right? How are the lines set? Why do they move? What's the difference between public money and sharp money? These aren't just buzzwords. These are going to be your signals. You need to learn also about the VIG or the juice. Why closing line matters, right? Closing line value matters. You need to know all these things. You need to know how to shop like a pro also when you're talking about your odds. Every nickel is going to matter, right? So there's no right way. Some guys are stat wizards, some guys are, they grind the trends, or maybe they even use instinct. But you need to learn all the angles and then apply what fits for you. Number three is going to obviously be the technical analysis, right? Your statistics, your modeling. It's the numbers. You need to know which advanced stats actually correlate with your bet type, right? But don't stop there. You have to keep tracking them as well. Sports evolve, and then yesterday's edge might not work this next season. You also need to understand concepts like expected value, maybe even some regression to the mean, variance, but you definitely, and I mean definitely, will need to know probabilities. That's how you're going to measure your edge. So, even basic Excel sheets, now that we're moving on, those Excel sheets, they can go a long way, right? You can track your bets, you can find trends, you can simulate outcomes, and then you can also correctly size your wagers. So, if you really want to level up, you can also study modeling. We've talked about this throughout the series. You can do power ratings, Monte Carlo simulations. You need to understand how models are built, even if you don't build one yourself. The reason why we would like you to build maybe like a preliminary one that kind of matches the sports book, and it's because it's supposed to make you as unbiased as possible. That's all a model is supposed to do. So, in short, this slide isn't new. It's the research process that we talked about, right? Those technicals, the fundamentals in the market. And the more that you sharpen each of these areas, the better your bets are going to become and the better that you're going to see those long term results. All right, so let's wrap this up with some recommended resources. So you can sharpen your game with these recommended resources. You don't have to use all of them, but you can, use most of them and try to expose yourself and get yourself better, right? So podcasts you can listen to. You can listen to Circles Off, from the Hammer. This dives deep into that betting theory. You can listen to these podcasts. Remember, while commuting to work, walking the dog, doesn't matter. Just get a 15 to 45-minute podcast in. Another one could be Bet the Process with Rufus Peabody, blends that sharp analytics with the strategy talk. If you're more into the more casual talk but it still has a solid market context, you can look at The Favorites by Action Network. That's a really good podcast. And then finally, Beating the Book with Gil Alexander. It's been around forever. It's got tons of sharp information, and he kind of drops right before events rather than on a weekly or daily basis. Books, and I mean educational books, not sports books. You could look at The Logic of Sports Betting, and this is a modern day textbook and it's straight to the point. You can have Sharp Sports Betting by Stanford Wong. This is old school, but it still has a ton of value. Scorecasting, I like this because of the behavioral twist that it has. It has why fans, players, and bettors act the way that they do. And then if you're in the mindset set of things, obviously, you can look at The Art of War. So it still applies. You can use strategy, patience, discipline, and how to use it against the sports book. Finally, you can look at websites, tools. Maybe it's YouTube. You can look at this channel called Grandstand Sports Data. It's great with educational content. I know I'm being cheesy here, but it's our shameless plug. I do feel that we have we're good in terms of this space here in YouTube in terms of giving you betting education. We don't tell you what to bet on. We kind of give you the education on how to bet, and I feel like we're pretty good in that space. Next would be a Action Network. This helps you track line movement, public betting trends. That's a website you would probably be going to very often in your sports betting journey. Another one should be Unabated. I really like this one. It's elite for comparing odds and then tracking closing line value. If you want monster stats and stats galore, go to sportsreference.com. Basically, almost every sport and its historical stats for every sport, almost every sport, college basketball, NBA basketball, the list goes on. And then don't sleep on team rankings, KenPom, PFF. These are all packed with those advanced analytics, and they're going to be huge in terms of your technical analysis. So please take a look at those. The point is, though, you're never going to stop learning, right? Whether it's podcasts, books, or tools, you've got more resources than ever to stay sharp, stay ahead, and then bet smarter. So next, let's pull it all together into more of what we're going to see coming up in this video. All right, so let's talk about social media. This is the wild west of sports betting. It can either be a sharp tool or a slippery slope to garbage picks and bad habits, but here's how to use it wisely. The first one is you need to follow data driven accounts. Don't, not these hype merchants. If they're talking stats, process, or models, keep them. If they're shouting lock of the year, you got to unfollow these people. You need to stay away from those overconfident TikToks, emotional hot takes, and miracle parlays. That's not real betting, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not. That's content farming for clicks. That's all it is. It's just not real sports betting. Next, you need to use Twitter lists, Discords, or forums to filter the noise. So build your own feed of sharp thinkers, analysts, and bettors who actually talk process. Also, if you're on Twitter, a great fundamental tool, what you can do is you could subscribe to teams, I would say head like reporter, beat reporter. This will give you an edge in terms of the injury list and all that. I do it for NFL, it's huge for me. So basically, if you're looking at the Patriots, a guy like Mike Reese, if you're looking at a guy, all 32 teams, or when I'm talking about NFL now, but more sports specific for you, if you follow the lead beat reporter for every single team, say if you are handicapping a sport, that will be beneficial in getting your news a little bit earlier than your competition or a little bit earlier than everybody else, which is everybody else happens to be the public. Now, just remember the loudest voices that you hear are usually the least profitable. We're talking about the real sharps don't have time to scream on social media. One last thing, don't pay for picks, ladies and gentlemen. If someone's charging for bets, ask for their long-term records. Watch what they do. Watch what they do. It's craziness. When you ask for records, they start losing it. But you can lose bets on your own for free. You don't need to make picks or pay for picks. Next, social media, just use it as a tool, not a crutch, right? And you'll stay far away from the clown show. Okay, so one of the fastest ways to improve as a sports bettor is you need to surround yourself with the people who are sharper than you. right? Learn from the smarter bettors, whether it's someone 20 years of experience or a guy who's killed a big, like a killer model. You want to take some good ideas and adapt them to your process. Makes sense, right? Next, you should engage with online communities, forums, or maybe even local betting groups. You're not in this alone. There's power in discussion, accountability, and shared insights. Also, a lot of people on online forums will share their record or share their plus minus in terms of units. And you can see how well they've been doing throughout the year. They actually show their records, not like people, who you have to pay for picks and they blow a tantrum. So just keep that in mind. And then here's the big one: you need to know that feedback is always greater than ego. So don't let pride get in the way of progress. Be coachable. Welcome advice. Embrace some criticism too. That's how you grow. The lone wolf better who never listens, he doesn't last. So the sharp who listens, learns, and then adapts, he's going to stick around for the long haul. All right, so if you're serious about long term success in sports betting, you need a growth routine. And this is just as important as a bankroll management. Well, at least I think it is. What you need to do is you're going to need to dedicate the time each week to study your bets, review mistakes, and then test out new systems. Right? This is the assessment days that we talked about. Next, I want you to keep both a record keeper, which is, you measuring your key variables, and then a bet tracker. This is your results, your return on investment. And those two are going to work together to sharpen your decision making, your plan, and your strategy. Next, you want to set measurable goals, write them down, and then track them. And always remember, sharpen your edge by evolving. So the betting landscape, it changes fast. What worked last season may not work this season. So staying sharp means staying flexible. I will say also, when it comes to the routine, this is where a lot of people fall on their face because it may seem daunting at first. Your routine might take 45 minutes and you'll say, I can't do this every day. What I would say is that try to automate your routine as much as possible. That way, what will start off as 45 minutes may only be 15. And that's what I'm saying from experience. I used to have a process that was like 45 minutes long and I couldn't stand it. But as I automated as time went on, now my process takes about basically 10 minutes. And I'll get notifications on my phone and whether I'll go forward with the bet or not. So you need to grow also your routine more importantly than your bankroll. So, this might be one of the most important lessons in the entire chapter, and this is to know what to ignore. So, you should be trimming the fat in everything that you do, and betting is no different. So, that means cutting out the noise. The tip sheets and so called insider locks, those are garbage. The emotion based arguments like, oh, they have to win tonight. Narratives, not facts. So, you don't go with those. Influences, selling picks, most are just touts trying to profit off your inexperience. The bottom line here is that noise kills profits. Stick to data, stick to logic, stick to repeatable processes. Filter out the fluff, and your rate of return will thank you. So here's the truth: you never really arrive in sports betting. This game changes constantly, right? The market adapts, sharp bettors get sharper, and edges disappear fast. So adopt the mindset of a lifelong learner. Stay curious, skeptical, and humble, even when you're on a hot streak. Complacency kills more bankrolls than bad beats ever will. This is going to be a grind, but the best bettors, they love the grind. The research, the analysis, the self discipline. That's where real satisfaction is, not just placing bet, but earning it. Stay sharp, stay humble, and stay learning is going to be the biggest thing that you can take away from this video. Okay, you've made it this far, so you're not just dabbling in sports betting, you're actually serious about it. So here's going to be my final thought. I want you guys to handicap your own games. Build your lines, don't just copy picks or follow the noise. Do the work. Use your power ratings, factor in coaching, injuries, motivation, all that good stuff. Whatever your process is, own it, right? Then I want you to be smart with systems. Trends can lie, logics won't, right? Or logic won't. Find patterns that make sense, but not ones that just look pretty in the hindsight. Now, dig deeper into the final score. What does this mean? I want you guys to find those stats that correlate to your bet type because that's where the real value lives. And yeah, line shopping, which is next, like your rate of return, depends on it, right? It does. Your rate of return depends heavily on line shopping. So don't just hand your edge to the sports book. You need to fight for every point, every half nickel, whatever it is. You have to fight for it. Now listen, this isn't Vegas montages or those yacht selfies, right? This is full-time betting and it's not glamorous at all. It's going to be spreadsheets, discipline, and it's failure. There'll be some growth, and you're going to have to try again over and over again. But don't blame the refs. Don't say it's rigged. You made the bet, so you have to own the fucking thing. And most importantly, you need to love the grind. Because if you enjoy the prep, the process, and the puzzle, then win or lose, you've already won. Thank you guys for checking out the Art of Sports Betting series. If you like this concept or even the content, hit the like button to let us know that you want more. And we'll see you in the next one.